on, everybody? It's your boy Frankie.
And it's your boy Mike.
Welcome to the Soul by Soul YouTube channel. This is your first time tuning in. We do a lot of sneaker reviews, talk a lot about the sneaker culture, and ultimately building a community here. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok for more content. We're doing another installment in our long-form conversation series called Soul Series, and today we're going to be talking about really the top trends of this year so far.
Right, and we're going through our top 5 trends, and I'm going to start it off with brands amplifying their sneakers with collaborators.
Right.
So this trend we've been seeing for years, but it almost seems like brands are relying a little bit more heavily on collaborators in recent times. The market is interesting. Yes, sneakers are still popular, but they're not selling in the same way that they did before. So I think this is a way to just leverage that celebrity, that public figure, what have you, and propel that sneaker forward. I'll give you a perfect example. Let's talk about Travis Scott's and the Mac Attack. We recently saw that campaign that is bringing back the Mac Attack and using Travis Scott to kind of propel it forward. Maybe it's also a way to kind of get Travis Scott out of the shadows and put him on something, but you can see that people are a little bit hyped now about the Mac Attacks because Travis Scott is within the campaign. I think there's even a version of the Mac Attacks with the backward swoosh. So that raises some questions, and now you're gonna see their rollout continue, and we'll see if people are actually hype on that.
Right. And like you said, it's not something that is new to the sneaker game. It's just for whatever reason this year, it feels like it's happening a lot.
Right.
We've seen that not just at Nike, New Balance as well, right? They're releasing the New Balance 610s, those hiking trail sneakers. They've teamed up with Bodega. They've teamed up with Joe Freshgoods. They've teamed up with Amine. So like really trying to push this sneaker into the culture, into the zeitgeist. And you know, at the same time though, that's a very niche sneaker. Like if you're
It's a hiking sneaker.
It's a hiking sneaker.
Right. It's not really, I feel like they're making it lifestyle almost.
They're trying to make it lifestyle by tapping into the collaborators and like you said, the celebrities and whatnot, and it just feels like there's just a lot of reliance on that to try and propel this sneaker, to try to boost up sales, boost up revenue. You know, we can't fault the brands for doing that, but it just feels like this year, out of a lot of years past, there seems to be an over-reliance on this, and that could be damaging to a brand. Right,
maybe it's just like there's not so much hot product, so they're having to do that. Union's also been doing that with newer models too. We have the AJKO Low, that's brand new to Nike, and that was started through Union's collaboration. And they also have the upcoming woven Air Jordan 1. I am not a fan of that sneaker. But I think that's, again, another way to propel forward something that we're not used to. Put the big brand name on it, put the big collaborator, and then it maybe picks up steam.
Maybe, and like that's probably the thinking behind it. Like, here's an Air Jordan 1 and we're gonna wove laces all over it. Like Nike themselves doing it, you probably see that at your Nike outlet tomorrow.
Yeah, you're not gonna buy it.
But tap Union, and
there's a possibility.
You know, maybe there's a possibility that we could actually push the sneaker sales a little bit more. And so when we do it again, you know, you've kind of adapted this mindset, this kind of, you know, behavior that like, oh, I have the Union pair, so like maybe I want more of these. It ain't gonna work for me, I'll tell you that much. Let's talk about another thing that brands are probably being a little over-reliant on, and that's tapping into nostalgia. You know, we're seeing a lot right now when it comes to intentionally yellowing colorways, leaning on vintage looks, bringing back sneakers from the vault, whether they may be sneakers that didn't release beforehand, had some tech spec issues, or had released prior, but it's been a very long time since we've seen them, so let's bring it back and let's tap into that nostalgia factor.
And I mean, right in line with that is Nike, Jordan, their Reimagined series. We have them here today, the Reimagined or Lost and Found 1s and the Reimagined 3s in the white cement colorway. These are the first 2 installments in the Reimagined series. I do think that they did really well to capture the essence of what this sneaker was and sort of modernize it. And now we're gonna get additional pairs of these sneakers in the Royal Toe 1s, right? We definitely have seen images of the Bread 4s, and then there's also the black toe ones, I believe, is somewhere in the ether.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to these, I thought they did these two sneakers well, but what's interesting is when you kind of lean too much into it and make too many changes, that's when it gets a little funky.
Right.
Like the Royal Toes, they just didn't look like they would be good because of the material used.
Right.
They wanted to switch that all up. With the Bred 4s, they're changing up that material to be leather, allegedly, and I don't know if it's going to hit the same.
Right.
So it's like, I think this nostalgia or tapping into older silhouettes, bringing them back with the reimagined style is definitely a cool concept.
Yeah.
But it's getting me a little bit worried if Nike kind of goes too far with it.
Yeah.
Straying away from the OG.
Right, exactly. Talking about an OG, right? Think about the Air Max 1 Big Bubbles that dropped this year, right? So like, this is literally like the specs of the 86 Big Bubbles.
Yeah.
The only difference is Nike made it so that this big bubble won't tear apart and explode.
And that was the issue
when
back
it's
in
the
the
cold
day.
weather, and that was the issue with this. So that's why like the bubble got lower, less, and that's why we have the Air Max 1 that we have today. But this was the initial iteration of the Big Bubble, right? And so it's like, all right, let's go back into the vault. Let's release this. Instead of doing a re-release of the anniversary red colorway, the 1906 is another one that comes to mind with me of what New Balance is doing. You know, with the 550s as well.
Right.
You know, that's another example.
So the next trend we want to talk about is what the heck is going on with Adidas?
What's going on?
That's the trend. That's the name of it. It's just been really interesting to see their path. You know, once a super giant in the industry, not to say that they're not anymore, but it just doesn't feel like their sneakers are hitting.
Yeah.
Their sneakers aren't really making lists in the same way that they used to.
Yeah.
And it almost seems like they don't have the same direction. They don't have that same flair when they had the NMDs, the Ultra Boosts, when Yeezy was popping off. And speaking of Yeezy, we also wanted to just talk about sort of the Yeezy Day events.
Wherever you land on this, you know, your prerogative. For me at least, you know, I was okay with Adidas, you know, severing ties, given everything that was happening. But then money starts talking, your bottom line starts talking. And so Adidas was like, well, okay, we got to do this thing to get some revenue. And I mean, you know, the numbers speak for themselves. It seems like there was a lot of Yeezy pairs, according to reports. 682,000 pairs were released in that release. Over 170 million in revenue total. However, 15% goes back to Ye because it's a Yeezy product. So Ye got 25 million, you know, by Adidas going back into the vault and saying, all right, release all these Yeezys. And, you know, we do have to state that Adidas did say outright that a portion of these proceeds were going to, you know, fighting hate speech, fighting anti-Semitism, you know, all these things. But at the end of the day, I think it's a reflection of the times right now when it comes to in terms of sneaker branding of Adidas, that they needed to go to these lengths to try to allegedly get some revenue to help their bottom line. And it's just very interesting that like they can't do. It seems like they're struggling everywhere else.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, Yeezy kind of being their giant that has shifted things and shifted that dynamic there. We have seen other collaborators. Jerry Lorenzo has popped out of the shadows. He actually did a Fear of God showing. Pusha T was in the campaign. I think it was sort of like a runway release, and you got to see the first look at the Adidas basketball Jerry Lorenzo collaboration. One that I'm not so much a fan of. I'm interested to see what else he's gonna do, but it almost seems like, did he miss the mark in terms of the time where he really should have been pushing over there when all eyes were on him and there was sort of that vacancy? We've also seen Sean Witherspoon, he's over there, but his pairs have not hit the same as the Air Max 197 that he did with Nike. So although he's over in that camp now, I don't know if he got it. And now when I think of like Bad Bunny, for instance, Bad Bunny is killing the game and seems almost like their number one collaborator right now.
In sneakers sell,
Yeah.
they're not the best though. Like, you know, miss me with these Response CLs. Personally, not a big fan of them. The Forum Lows, you know, I kind of like what they did with the design of those. I do like the Campus 80s, but it's just like, Bad Bunny is one of the most creative artists out there. And you know, again, we don't know the inner workings of what's going on. Like if Bad Bunny is like, yeah, give me these shoes so I can give my taste, or it's Adidas being like, we're gonna give you these shoes, or like you do something with it.
Right.
But like, you know, what we've seen in terms of like sneaker culture and Adidas, it's really tapping into something that, you know, really can capture the moment, be something that is innovative, like the NMDs, like Yeezys. And you know, with these sneakers, while they are historical, nostalgic, somewhat would say, to the Adidas brand, they're not really doing it for me. What do you think Adidas needs to do better? Let us know in the comments section down below. Let's talk about the state of the sneaker market, like, right? Like we talked in our last episode a little bit about this when it came to the Mischief Big Red boots and the obscene prices that we were seeing upon its initial release, and you know, now they've come back down to earth. But it might be an indicator of where things are currently at right now when it comes to the sneaker market. And one thing that isn't helping is brands inflating prices, right?
No, absolutely. I think sort of the brand inflation of prices, just with the times and them trying to make their bottom line, is kind of forcing certain sneakers to really be a decision of, do I want to spend now over $200 for XYZ a sneaker, right? And then it's bringing down, I think, sort of the market overall. But it's also like there's so much oversaturation of certain silhouettes and colorways, and everyone's sort of caught on too. So there just comes this point where sneakers are not selling the same as they were years before. I wish that inflation mark wasn't there, because now it's getting so expensive to buy sneakers. What I do like about the current market is that you can sort of get pairs that you wouldn't typically see at that same price on the resale market. Maybe years ago you see it $100, $200 more for certain sneakers. So I guess that's helpful, but kind of the initial price of sneakers is crazy right now.
It's crazy. I mean, Jordan 11 DMPs apparently are gonna retail for $230.
Nah, I can't do it. I can't do it.
I'm gonna do it.
I can't do it.
I'm gonna do it, but because of this, like, you know, you're making decisions of like, dang, I can't really buy another sneaker, or can't justify buying as many sneakers as I want to. You know, especially like upon reflection of this year, I personally haven't bought that many sneakers. You know, I personally haven't gotten as many in my hand, in my collection. A, because it's so expensive, right? But also on the point of the market, like you see that having ripple effects of like, yes, there are things that are available, but you also like don't want to get everything at the same time, because you know, we're even seeing right now like brands are cracking down on returns, for example.
The profitability of some sneakers, like looking for that, right? You know, Dunks will do well. Jordan 4s right now are doing well. Collaborations in general are doing well, right? So it's kind of looking at those, and sometimes it's like, I'm gonna do a little flip of a sneaker in order to kind of sustain the hobby, sustain the channel, and like keep certain sneakers that I really want kind of in rotation, and making it more affordable, because it's like, cool, I flipped something for double the amount just so now I can like sustain the collection.
We're seeing a lot of, you know, these consignment shop owners, you know, whether they're small or large, you know, maybe tapping into other ways to try to help keep the lights on at their shops, or just keep, you know, this business of sneakers flowing by becoming content creators, or even sending up shots at conventions, which, you know, ties into the last thing that we wanted to bring up, and that's this fascination with sneaker conventions now. It's kind of interesting. You know, we were talking about this, and you know, we felt like, you know, when we were getting into the game of content creation, it seemed like having a sneaker store was a cool thing, right? Like a Cam's Kicks, Sneak City, for example. You know, having these pop-ups were like were just cool to see. Now it seems like it's turning to, are you at a convention, and what are you doing at that convention?
And exactly, I think that's sort of in that content space being on YouTube. That's what we're seeing. That's what seems to be popular. Whether it's someone going around asking people questions about, you know, different sneakers, what they like, dislike, whether it's just the buying and selling, which we used to see in the store, that's happening at conventions, of course. And then just generally, I think it's the atmosphere. It's like, oh, what are you gonna see there?
Right.
Or maybe it's like, oh, all these popular people in the sneaker game might be there too.
Right.
Or a celebrity might come through. So I think it's the new kind of thing that we're chewing on as a sneaker community. And, you know, we're seeing probably ourselves being in those spaces more too.
We were recently at Got Soul Boston. It was my first sneaker convention. Your second, third?
No, probably fourth.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Man, he's a vet now.
Not even.
But it was my first sneaker convention, and it was definitely overwhelming at first. There was a lot of sneakers in your face.
Yeah.
A lot of crazy sneakers
in
your face that you've never seen in person.
The internet sneakers.
Oh my goodness, it was insane. But there was just a lot going on, and you could feel like kind of the energy that exudes at a sneaker convention. You know, you got a lot of people trying to sell, you got a lot of people trying to buy, you got a lot of people, I'ma say it, cloud chasing out in these streets. And you know, to each his own. That was one thing I did not like about being in that environment. But at the same time, you know, it was cool just kind of walking around and seeing what people had to offer, and you know, being able to kind of see in like firsthand accounts of like, oh, this is how sneaker conventions go. Mike tried to warn me. Mike was like, bro, like, you know, just get ready,
because it is like a space that you need to kind of almost be prepared for. And I feel like, you know, we are definitely sneakerheads. We create content around it. We talk about it constantly. But in that space, you got to understand that it's also like the buying and selling too. And it's like you almost got to go into it from just like a consumer of the event. From that standpoint, you got to go into it with a mindset of like, what am I going to do? What am I looking for in terms of purchasing? What are those price points? And then if I'm selling anything, what are those price points? Because there's going to be a lot of dialogue and conversation with people. We had some wins that day.
We did.
Couple pairs of white cements.
Couple pair of white cement.
So it was successful, I guess, and something that we may tap into a little bit more.
Yeah, let us know if you want to see us tapping into the sneaker convention space. Like, would you want us going out there, vlogging it for y'all, giving you our experience, reflecting after the fact? Thank you all so much for tuning into this conversation, this latest installment of Soul Series. Like we said, it's very laid back, a lot more conversational, a lot more chill. Hydration is key. But let us know what you think of this episode. If you want more of Soul Series content for y'all, what do you want us to talk about? You know, we're very open to any ideas that you want us to cover with these conversations. Y'all should actually tune into our latest video where we covered the best sneakers of 2023 so far.